We have gone past a year living in Panama, and there are so many downsides to living here that if people are not careful, they'll think it's all peaches and cream.
Downsides?
Yeah. Because you know how people often say, well, you know, it's raining, it's gloomy, it's yucky, it's nasty, don't nobody want to go outside, I feel sleepy. Like, people see that as a downside.
Oh.
Is that the way you see it?
No.
Why? Hold that thought. We're going to talk about that and more coming up on the next edition of Behind Closed Doors with the Brookses. Stay tuned. Well, we'd like to welcome you guys back to another edition of Behind Closed Doors with the Brookses. I'm Glenn P. Brooks Jr. and this lovely...
light skin, beautiful, amazing, magnificent.
All the words, all the things.
Cherie A. Brooks Jr.
Authors, speakers, relationship coaches. And it's good to be back with y'all. So today we're going to talk about something that's often misconstrued, I think, is probably a good word.
Yeah, we're going to give you guys a glimpse into a day in the life here in Panama, embracing Panama's rainy season.
That part. So really quickly, one of the top reasons Cherie and I picked Panama of all the places we could relocate to was because they don't get hurricanes.
Correct.
They also have a state-of-the-art healthcare system. And even during rainy season, it's a vibe.
Right.
Like it's a whole thing.
Right. And so the bulk of rainy season is October and November. And like Glenn said, one of the things that attracted us here to Panama was the fact that we don't get hurricanes. We're outside of the hurricane belt. And so we don't get the effects of that, but we do get rain.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's not torrential downpours. It's not tropical storms. It's just rain.
Right. The other thing is that we're from the Northwest. So I'm sorry, the Northeast rather. And what I can tell you about growing up in Baltimore, for her in DC is the same, is that the winters were brutal. Yeah. Brutal. And when I say brutal, meaning whether it's freezing rain, snow, or all of the above, like you could get that anywhere from December, mid to late December, all the way through, March, February and March. And so for us, this was attractive in that, okay, it can rain, but it's 85 degrees. And so I want to talk a little bit about sort of perspective, Cherie. I know that a day in our life here in Panama is unique in the sense that every day that we wake up, so that y'all are clear, we're not retired, right? So we do work, if you will, but our work is 100% online and we get to create our schedule based around how we move. And as a result of that, we probably show up or have to show up, I don't know, 4 to 5 hours a week, maybe.
Have to, yeah.
Meaning somebody
online with other people.
Online with other people because they looking for you because you've got something scheduled or that sort of thing. Anything other than that are things that we choose to do, and we did that on purpose. So let's start there. A day in our life is about, we get up around 7 or so.
We normally wake up around 6 o'clock. Get up in the morning, can do our devotional, stretching. You usually go swim. We get to move at our own pace in the morning.
Mornings are real slow.
Real slow. So usually our day actually doesn't kick in until probably about 9, 10 o'clock.
Easy. And that means like literally having to, make sure we're up, we're dressed, with the exception of Wednesdays. Wednesdays, we're out really, really early,
Right.
because that's the one day a week that our housekeeper comes to clean the home.
And we leave.
And we leave because Nina is a whole vibe. Like, you don't want to be here while she's cleaning.
Right.
And so
free reign.
that's the week that we normally will schedule
The
most
day.
most of our errands and things like that. So we're out of the house around 7:30 in the morning, and we're normally not back till around 3-ish or somewhere in that neighborhood. But on a normal day to day, we bumping around and we kind of just figuring it out. We grab coffee. We like to go to one of our area coffee shops. Shout out to Siete Granos and Chef Emil and all of the things that they doing over there. We love that place. Great food. I always say that Siete Granos is a restaurant that does amazing food, and they happen to sell some pretty dope coffee.
Right.
It's not a coffee shop first as much as they want you to believe that. Trust me when I tell you, the food is amazing. And so we'll start out there, and then, like I said, after a swim or whatever, we maybe grab breakfast there. But then it's kind of, off and about, and we're on excursions, and we're discovering something new every single day.
Right, and not excursions like you guys think excursions. We're not going on tours and things.
Oh,
like
let's talk about that difference.
Just exploring the city.
Right.
Getting out and exploring our neighborhood, exploring different areas of the city. At least once a week, usually on Wednesdays, just getting out and about so that we can go explore new areas in the city that we haven't explored, whether it's going to a different area, whether it's going to a shopping, whatever it is, just to find more and more things to do here in the city. And so we actually have that. Usually Wednesday is our exploration day.
Yeah.
It's probably the better way to put it. So today was an interesting day.
Boy, today we completed a cycle. So when we first got here, one of the first things we did was we applied for our permanent visa, and it took about 30 days or so for us to get the temporary. We did that right away, and within the first 30 days we were able to get our temporary status, and then the permanent status came in at about 6 months after that. We can get into the whole kind of visas we have. For all of you guys that got questions, shoot us up in the comments and we'll do our best to help you. But that was something that needed to be completed.
We had a lot going on. For those of you that followed us, I fractured my ankle. We've been back and forth to the States for whatever reasons. We've had a lot of stuff going on. So we never did the next step in that process, which was getting our e-cedula, which is, I don't even know how to really describe it.
I think the best way to describe it is when you become a permanent resident, you have the option of getting what they call an e-cedula. This is an ID card for all intents and purposes. It's like a Social Security card for us in the U.S. It's actually connected to your passport, so you don't need to carry your passport while in country and traveling around when you have an e-cedula.
Right, and so we had not done that process because we had so many things going on. So last week we actually went and completed that. We go pick it up actually tomorrow, but today we had to go to the embassy to start the process for us to get our driver's license here, because that was the next step, which we would have done. So you get your visa, then you normally get your e-cedula, then you get your driver's license. We had put off the e-cedula and the driver's license just because life was happening.
And then the other part, just to keep it 100, we have no plans on driving here. Thank God for Omar and the services that him and his crew provide in terms of our personal transport. But y'all, there's absolutely no reason for us to have a car. If you needed to rent a car, obviously you would need a license to do that. But I'll be honest with you, out of the 4 million people that live in Panama, half of them live in Panama City. And so navigating the city is a situation. We did take an opportunity to do the slingshots, but that was a guided tour, and it gave us sort of this whole different view of, oh my God, like you kind of got to be built a little different. And to be honest, not driving for a year has given me sort of a glimpse as to the stress-free life of having someone else drive you.
Right, and so to address this question, because I can hear you guys asking, so you can't drive if you don't have a Panamanian license. Okay, when you come to Panama as a tourist or even to become a resident, you can drive on your U.S. driver's license up to 90 days. After you've been here for 90 days, if you get stopped and you're still driving on your U.S. driver's license, that could be a problem. So as a resident, you only have 90 days from the time that you become a resident to be able to drive on your U.S. driver's license. we're way past that. So we need to get our Panamanian driver's license if we do decide to drive anywhere. Now, if you come here as a tourist, you have 90 days.
Right.
You can rent a car using your U.S. driver's license or your Canadian, I guess your Canadian driver's license or wherever.
Yeah.
You can use your license for wherever you're from for whatever that time period is that your tourist visa is valid here in the country. But for us, because we are permanent residents now, we only had 90 days from when we got our permanent residency to be allowed to drive on our U.S. license. So now, if we want to drive, we have to get our Panamanian driver's license, which is really simple. You just have to go. We had to go to the embassy today to get our license notarized by the U.S. Embassy. The next step is it has to be validated by the Panamanian government. Then we'll go to what is the equivalent to their DMV. Basically, we'll take that paperwork. They'll take our picture, smile, you get a license. We don't have to take a test. We don't have to do any of that.
None of that.
They accept our license, and we are able to get a Panamanian license. And so we're in the process of doing that now.
Right. And the reason is because, again, if we decide to get brave and rent a vehicle and drive, to the interior, which I don't see us happening. We would have it. The other reason is in a case of an emergency.
Right.
If something happens and we're out and about,
we're out with Omar or somebody, and we need to drive.
For
whatever reason.
Technically,
we don't have to worry about at least getting stopped by the police.
Right. We ain't driving dirty at that point.
Right.
So today, the embassy, babe.
Yes.
That was an experience.
Right.
And if you've never been to the embassy here in Panama.
Well, I've never been to a U.S. embassy anywhere.
No, that's true. I've never been to a U.S. embassy abroad anywhere, but having worked in D.C., obviously you may be familiar with Embassy Row.
Yeah,
and so,
embassy.
And this is where I'm going with this. So in my mind, having, worked in the nation's capital, lived outside of the nation's capital for years, Sharia's from D.C., I'm accustomed to, seeing Embassy Row. It ain't like that. At all here. So the embassy is off in a section of town. It's in Clayton, which for those of you guys who may have former military, you may remember that the U.S. at one point had a U.S. military installation here, and this is over in that area. But it's off by itself, and it's a whole complex, y'all. I mean, It is a whole complex. So if you're gonna go, be prepared to walk when you park your car. Like, I wish I had footage, but they take your phones immediately. But when you go inside the gate, you have to park outside the gate, and you have to walk up to the gate, and then you have to walk to where you need to be.
Right. So you park in the parking lot right off the street. You go through the initial gate where they check your passport, make sure you're a U.S. citizen. Then whether you have an appointment or they verify what you're there for. Then you go through the gate. Now you're on U.S. soil, technically.
Yeah, you see
embassy ground.
You see the American flag flying high.
And so then you go up to the top of the hill and you enter into the building, and that's where then you go through security, and that's when they take any electronics that you have, your cell phone. They're going to take your things. Apple Watch. I had a pen in my bag. They took that. So they didn't know if it was an electronic e-pen, so they took that. So they're going to take any electronics that you have, because you can't use cell phones, cameras, anything. There's a whole list of things you can't bring in the embassy. And so they take those things from you, and they put it in a little cubby hole. They give you a number. You see where they put it. It's secure. Then you go through there and go to where it is you need to go in the embassy.
Right.
So the process was really easy. It's set up kind of like a DMV inside. You go in. They tell you which window to go through. You go there, you get a number, they call your number, you go up. We had to complete some paperwork for our notarization of our license, completed that, filled out the paperwork, they verify the paperwork, then you go pay, you come back, he notarizes everything, and that's it. And so the next step is getting that paperwork to our attorney so that they can go take it to get authenticated.
Right.
Once they get it authenticated, it takes like 3 days, they'll get it back, then we can actually go to, I don't even know what it's called, motor vehicles.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of DMV.
Right, and actually get our license. But the thing that was unique, I thought, here was that they actually had Panamanians working in the embassy. I'm assuming it's going to be all U.S. citizens working in it because it's a U.S. embassy.
Right. Now, were they nice? 100%.
Yes,
Sweet,
yes.
Absolute. Matter of fact, one girl she broke out in a song and just was singing, and it was a whole situation. So, no, it was definitely a pleasurable experience. But it was a smooth process. One of the things that we really have come to learn, particularly in rainy season, is that nothing stops. And so our day to day is the same whether it rains or not. And I think a lot of times when people come to tropical countries, you know, obviously if you're coming from the Midwest or you're coming from up north or you're coming from, you know, maybe the Northwest where it rains a ton, you're not looking to go on vacation where it's raining in that regard. I get that. But the vibe here is completely different. I will say that, having lived here for over a year now, it doesn't feel like, you know, people even care, to be really honest with you.
Right. And so, like we shared earlier, when you get to the embassy, to the parking lot, you have to walk up this hill. And it's a nice little walk.
Yeah.
There's no covering. There's
None.
nothing. So we're inside.
If it rains,
we don't even realize that.
And it did.
Now, it was overcast this morning. It's been overcast the last couple of days. It rained yesterday. And so we knew it was a potential to rain, but we're like, okay, the sun looks like it's coming out. We're good. So apparently it downpoured while we were
inside.
So when we come outside, the ground is completely soaking wet. It looks like it just stopped raining. Now, thankfully, we missed the rain, but there were other people that were walking up the hill already.
Clearly.
They got caught in the rain. And so, like I said, it can rain at any moment here because, number one, we're in a rainforest, but also it's rainy season. And so it can rain at any moment. And typically when it rains, it downpours for about 15, 20 minutes and then it stops.
Yep.
And then it's gone. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes, you know, but the average rain is about 15, 20 minutes. And then it stops and it clears up. Like today, it's been raining off and on all day.
Right.
It'll rain for a little bit and then it stops. But when it rains, typically it's a downpour.
Now, I will say this, depending on where you live in the country, rainy season looks a little bit different. So if we have any expats or people who've traveled to Panama extensively, other parts of the country other than the city, feel free to put in the chat, like, what is rainy season like for you guys? Like for us, it is a welcome reprieve, to be quite honest.
Right, because it was cooler when we came back.
Because oh my God, absolutely.
When we were walking up the hill, we was like, oh my God, it's so hot. I was like, walk slow.
Yeah, walk.
Just walk real slow so we don't sweat. Because it's so hot. Because we weren't prepared to have to walk.
Listen, y'all, we didn't dress appropriately. That's the other thing that rainy season will teach you. Listen to me. So when you're walking, in this case, to a place that's going to be air conditioned, and by the way, Panamanians absolutely love their air. I always like to say
it's 7-Eleven cold.
Or QT cold if you're from the Southeast.
The time.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, it's on something different.
Yes.
And they love it like that. Whereas, you know, you're coming in from this hot, humid weather, you're drenched. Well, you come into the cold that way, it's a whole situation. So you learn how to dress, layer and wear, is it lycra or whatever it is, the wickings.
That fabric.
Right. I can promise you, don't let the cloth fool you.
Right.
Your boy got something that's wicking away moisture going on all over the way. But it becomes important to do that because, quite frankly, you need to be prepared for just about anything. But, you know, we didn't have our umbrellas with us. We didn't really think we were going to have to walk.
Right.
We're thinking, hey, Omar's going to take us to the place.
Right.
And we just going to walk in the building even if it rains, it rains.
Right, because like going to immigration, going to these other places, you pull up, you just walk straight in the building.
Right.
There is no long walk.
It's in the city and
And so just if you have not gone to the embassy, know that there is a nice little walk. Wear some comfortable shoes.
100%.
The other thing here in Panama, whenever you go to any official building, any government building, men have to wear pants. You can't wear shorts.
Right.
Women, you need to wear something covering your sleeves.
Yeah, because they wouldn't let her. They would not let her in looking like that because she's scantily clad, dressed, and she's showing too much stuff.
So you have to be dressed. You have to be dressed professionally, but you need to be dressed very modestly.
Praise the Lord.
To go into. That's my lap scarf, shoulder scarf.
Right.
Shoulder scarf.
All my church people, y'all know what time it is.
So you have to dress appropriately. So with that being in mind, you know, and also like Lynn said about the AC, so I had on a sweatsuit today. I had on some long pants and I had a short sleeve top.
She was dressed for that cold,
I was dressed for the cold, not thinking we were going to have to walk in the heat.
Didn't happen.
And so that was a whole thing. But if you are the type of person that, you know, you may be natural or you're not, you don't want your hair to get wet. Like, I don't care. I mean, my hair is natural, but I usually wear it in a style that if it gets wet, it's not that big a deal. I'm not tripping off of it. So I very rarely carry umbrellas. Just because of the hassle of having to carry it, having to keep up with it.
Forgetting it.
All right, so I very rarely take umbrellas with me, and I've got to the point it's like it's just rain.
Right, that's another thing.
It's just rain.
Yeah,
and usually it's hot when it rains, and so it's a welcome reprieve. I don't mind a little bit of cool rain,
just to kind of cool you off. To your point, and we're gonna shift gears a little bit, but we talk perspective. That's the thing that I realized, that like you begin to think different in this kind of weather. If you're coming here on vacation, maybe not so much because you're here for 3, 5, 7 days, maybe. In our case, the first time we ever came, we were here for 10 days. Like you want to be able to do all the things, right? I get it. Well, probably it'd be good to come in dry season in that case.
Or if you come in rainy season, bring a poncho, bring an umbrella.
Yeah, and just be ready. Here's what I do know: over the course of 5, 7, 10 days, it ain't raining every day.
Right.
I can promise you that in most cases. So now, unless you come in October or November, that might be a little, because that's the rainiest. That's the rainiest part of rainy season, October and November. Just keep that in mind. But come December, boom, everything opens up. But the point I'm making is that it causes you to shift your perspective. We just love it.
And so now the downside, I will say, to rainy season, like I shared before, usually when it rains, it downpours. The issue with that is because it comes down so fast, so quick, you don't want to, they advise you, everybody will tell you, if it's coming down like that, just stay put wherever you are.
Wherever you are.
You don't want to get in the car, you don't want to drive. And the reason is because they have a lot of flash flooding. Because the rain is coming down so quickly, it takes a minute for it to be able to move through the roads. And so even when we were coming back, it wasn't raining initially when we left. But then it started raining, but we were already in the car at that point. And so we came across some areas and the water was starting to build up. Now it's not, it wasn't where we were going because Omar knows how to go. We didn't go through like any major, we weren't driving through no swamps or nothing like that. But you could see the water building up on the street.
Exactly.
And so the recommendation is always, if you're here during rainy season, if it's downpouring, stay where you are. If you're in a store, if you're somewhere getting something to eat, if you're walking, duck into someplace, and just wait it out. Like I said, normally it lasts like 15, 20 minutes, at the most maybe an hour on average. Just hang tight wherever you are versus getting into a vehicle when it's downpouring like that.
That's the other thing. The water generally recedes almost as quickly as it rises. And so you don't have a lot of time sort of to wait it out, if you will. One other thing that I want to say before we get out of here, babe, is that, we're talking about the day in the life of an expat. And for us, although we are not retired, we kind of live a little like we do because we do have a lot of flexibility with our time. And so today we had some furniture delivered. We were able to get back in time enough to kind of oversee that. One of the things I will encourage you to do is learn the language as quickly as you can. And or build a network where you have people who can come through and translate for you. Thank God for Omar. Because in that particular case, you have different things going on and your apps may or may not work. They may translate something that you ain't trying to say, or it just becomes really, really frustrating trying to communicate.
Right, and that's the other thing in rainy season. Be patient. Understand, like we had a delivery that was supposed to come. They were supposed to come at 11, but because of the rain, they held off with their delivery prior to us because of the rain. So they delivered their delivery late, so it pushed them back late for our delivery. So be mindful of that although rain doesn't stop things here, it may delay.
It slows things down.
It may slow things down, and so just be patient. And that's a rule of thumb here in Panama anyway. Yeah. Just pack your patience. And so, like Glenn said, the whole language thing, when they got here, they didn't speak any English whatsoever. Luckily, Omar was here because we just needed some instruction on where to set things up. And
it really went smoothly. And even when we've been here, when we don't have a translator, again, the patience piece is critical. There's a saying here in Panama that it's mañana. Like mañana doesn't necessarily mean tomorrow, like it's translated, but it just means when we get there. And so you generally will schedule things with a window of opportunity and just understand this stuff happens. I just want to say this, y'all, as we continue on this journey of being an expat, I think one of the biggest refreshing things is that we live a life of creativity today and culture that we had not slowed down enough to connect to prior to coming here. Mm-hmm. And I think that for me, as we, come into the month of October, and, it's kind of funny because we're going to experience the worst of rainy season for the first time, right? Because we were in the States during the month of October and most of November last year. So this will be our first experience. And now that the drought season seems to be over, it's probably going to rain a lot more. But the other thing that I'm incredibly grateful for is our tribe. It's our community of people that we built. It didn't just come with the territory, because we built a community of people that we can depend on, and quite frankly, that can depend on us. And so it makes navigating so much easier.
Right. And one last note to all of my expats, to even to those of you in the U.S., November is coming upon us.
Yes.
Get out and vote. We actually mailed our absentee ballots off
That's
today
another thing we did
at
today.
the embassy. So
Yeah.
At the embassy, if you're here in Panama, if you have your absentee ballot, you take it to the embassy. I think you got a couple days to drop it off in time for it to get there.
Yep.
So hopefully you'll see this in time.
So we voted already.
Yeah, so we sent in our ballot. So, but if you're in the U.S., make sure you get out and vote. I'm not telling you who to vote for.
Yeah.
Just make sure you vote.
Absolutely.
Do your civic duty. Go ahead and vote. Cast your vote. It's important, even for those of us that are not currently in the country. That still is our home country.
Yep.
And we want to be a part of the process.
So last thing, before we let you guys go, many of you guys have been in the DMs, in our comments, asking about church, spiritual activities, things like that. Many of you guys may have seen the episode that we did a couple of weeks back talking about, that dilemma. It was one of the regrets that we had moving here, that we didn't really consider that there just would be a church that we could get connected to. It was kind of like, yeah, it's a ton of expats there. There's plenty of churches you can get connected to. Here's the challenge: culture, language, big difference. And because of that, you don't tend to find the community that may vibe with you from a value standpoint right away. So what Cherie and I decided to do, and it's coming up this Saturday. By the time you guys see this, it will be the Saturday coming, that we're launching what we're calling Breakfast and the Word. And it's just going to be us in a Zoom room full of a bunch of believers who want to grow in their faith and relationally together. This is not just for couples, but for couples, singles, parents, people who live abroad. Maybe you don't live in Panama. You might live in some other part of the world, but you don't have community when it comes to growing spiritually. So we definitely.
Even if you live in the U.S.
You might live in the U.S. because that's the other thing that we realize.
Have quite a few people in the States that just are not connected
to a local church.
And just are
for
looking
one reason
community.
or another, and just looking for a community of believers. And although we're going to create an in-person component, the in-person component will be something that we're going to launch all over the globe.
Yes.
And so I want y'all to come in. It's going to be kind of dope, I think, how we're going to roll this out. But our goal, y'all, is really to connect people, especially in times like these where between the political climates, between the racial climates, between the sexist stuff going down, you name it. People are disconnected more than they have been in forever. And I think it's the need for us to show love and be able to create communities where love lives in a very action kind of a way. And so I'll explain that more in the community. You'll understand we're going to be a part of community service projects and things like that as we evolve. But I'm excited about this. It's not church. We certainly appreciate the fact that, people, that's why we're doing it on a Saturday, because we want people to go to their local churches, because we also see a component where we're going to eventually grow to be able to partner and support other churches around the globe in different efforts that they may need some kind of specific support for.
Yep. So we hope you guys join us on Saturday.
Hope you do. And if not, we'll be back next week behind closed doors at the end of the day. Here's what I know to be true.
You can't get to any place of significance
by yourself.
Why is that?
By yourself.
Because we all.
By yourself.
Because we
all need
some
a little help. Help. I need somebody. Y'all be good, and we'll talk to y'all next week.
See you guys.